Sunho Park walked into the big classroom at the Galactic Xenobiology Academy. His shoes made small sounds on the metal floor. All around him, strange alien students were talking and moving to their seats. Some looked like living crystals that made music when they moved. Others looked like floating clouds of light. Some had bark for skin and moved like slow trees. Sunho found an empty seat near the back of the room. As always, the other students stared at him. He was used to it by now. After 6 months at the academy, he still felt like a zoo animal that everyone wanted to look at. 2 crystal students sat in front of him. Their names were hard to say, so Sunho just thought of them as Crystal 1 and Crystal 2. They were talking in their strange singing voices. Crystal 1's body made bright flashing lights as she spoke. "Look at the human," Crystal 1 sang softly. "He has no hard shell like us. No sharp parts anywhere. How does his species stay alive?" Crystal 2 made a sound like breaking glass, which Sunho had learned meant laughing. "Maybe his planet has no dangerous animals," Crystal 2 replied. "Maybe everything there is soft and safe like him." Behind Sunho, a tree-like alien named Barkface was talking to his friend. Sunho could not say their real names. They sounded like wind blowing through leaves. "Humans must come from a very peaceful world," Barkface said in his slow, creaky voice. "Look how small his teeth are. And his skin has no protection at all. One scratch from my thorns would probably kill him." Sunho kept his face blank. He had heard this kind of talk many times before. The other students always assumed humans were weak. They saw his smooth skin and small size and thought he came from some safe, easy world where nothing bad ever happened. A floating cloud student drifted past Sunho's desk. This one looked like purple smoke with tiny stars inside. It stopped and stared at Sunho with what might have been eyes. "Human," the cloud said in a voice like wind. "Is it true that your species has no natural weapons? No poison, no energy blasts, no armor?" "That's right," Sunho answered simply. The cloud made a sad whistling sound. "How terrible. Your people must live in constant fear." More students gathered around to listen. This happened a lot. They were always curious about the weak human and his soft species. "What do humans do when big predators attack?" asked a student who looked like a walking rock with too many arms. "We run away," Sunho said. It was not exactly a lie. "Run away." Crystal 1 sang with surprise. "That's it? You don't fight back?" "We're not very good fighters," Sunho replied. Again, not exactly a lie, just not the whole truth. The rock student shook his heavy head. "Such a sad species. You must need other aliens to protect you all the time." "Probably," Sunho agreed. Professor Zixtal floated into the room. She looked like a jellyfish made of light with 6 long arms. Her voice sounded like music when she spoke. "Good morning, students," Professor Zixtal said. "Today we start learning about the most dangerous hunters in the galaxy. Each of you will teach the class about your homeworld's scariest predator." The alien students got excited. Crystal 1's body flashed bright colors. Bark-faced leaves rustled with happiness. The cloud student spun in circles. "I want to talk about the mountain breakers from my world," Crystal 1 sang. "They can crush whole cities with their crystal claws." "I choose the death vines," Barkface said. "They can drain all the life from any creature in seconds." The cloud student whistled excitedly. "I will present the Star Eaters. They feed on the fear of entire planets." All around the room, students called out the names of terrible monsters. Each one sounded more frightening than the last. There were poison spitters and mind controllers and creatures that could melt metal with their breath. Professor Zixtal turned to Sunho. "And what about you, Mr. Park? What apex predator will you present?" The room became very quiet. All the alien students looked at Sunho with curiosity. They probably expected him to say something embarrassing, like a small plant-eating animal or maybe a creature that only ate fruits. "I'll talk about something that lives in Earth's oceans," Sunho said calmly. Crystal 2 made her glass-breaking laugh again. "An ocean creature? Like those gentle filter feeders from Wisp Prime?" "Something like that," Sunho said with a small smile. Professor Zixtal made notes on her glowing tablet. "Very well. You will present on day 3. I'm sure we will all learn something interesting about Earth's peaceful marine life." The alien students whispered to each other as Professor Zixtal started the day's lesson. They were already imagining what harmless creature the soft human would show them. Probably something that ate seaweed or tiny floating plants. Sunho sat quietly and listened to the lesson. He did not tell them what he really planned to present. He did not mention that his ocean creature had been the perfect killing machine for over 400 million years. He did not explain that this creature was so good at hunting that it had barely changed since before the dinosaurs. He just smiled and waited for day 3. The next day, Professor Zixtal floated to the front of the classroom. Her 6 glowing arms held different tools and tablets. The alien students were excited. Today they would pick which dangerous creature to present to the class. Listen carefully, Professor Zixtal said in her musical voice. You have 3 days to prepare. Choose your homeworld's most feared predator. Tell us how it hunts, what makes it dangerous, and why other creatures fear it. Crystal 1's body flashed bright blue with excitement. She turned to Crystal 2 and sang happily, I already know what I want to present. The silicon crushers from the dark mountains of Veltar Prime. Those sound scary, said the cloud student floating nearby. What do they do? They're as big as your human buildings, Crystal 1 explained, looking at Sunho. Made of living crystal like us, but wild and angry. They eat rocks and metal. When they walk, the ground shakes for miles. They can grab a spaceship and crush it like a small bug. Crystal 2 made her glass-breaking laugh. Remember the story about the mining colony? One silicon crusher destroyed the whole place in just 1 hour. Sunho listened but said nothing. He had heard stories about many dangerous aliens creatures in his months at the academy. Most of them sounded truly terrifying. Barkface raised one of his branch-like arms. Professor, I want to present the root stranglers from my forest world. Tell us about them, Professor Zixtal said, making notes on her glowing tablet. Barkface's leaves rustled as he spoke. They look like normal trees, but they're not. They can move their roots very fast under the ground. When something walks nearby, the roots shoot up and grab it. Then the tree drinks all the life from the creature. In just a few minutes, only dry bones are left. A student who looked like a walking rock with many arms raised one hand. How big are these root stranglers? Some are as tall as mountains, Barkface said proudly. The biggest ones can grab flying ships right out of the sky. On my world, we have whole dead forests where nothing lives because the root stranglers ate everything. The cloud student spun in a circle, making tiny stars dance inside his purple mist body. I choose the void wraiths from the dark space near my homeworld. What are void wraiths? Asked Crystal 2. The cloud student's voice became quiet and scary. They live in empty space between stars. They look like shadows with too many eyes. They don't eat your body. They eat your fear and your memories. When a void wraith finds you, first you forget your name. Then you forget your family. Then you forget how to think. Finally, you become just an empty shell floating in space forever. Several students moved back in their seats. Even the brave crystal students stopped flashing bright colors. They feed on whole planets, the cloud student continued. Sometimes they find a world full of thinking creatures. They land there and spread fear like a disease. Soon everyone on the planet goes crazy with terror. The void wraiths eat all that fear and become stronger. Then they move to the next world. Professor Zixtal wrote quickly on her tablet. Very interesting choice. What about you, Velmas? The tree student's bark skin made creaking sounds. I want to talk about the thorn spitters. They're like me but much bigger and more dangerous. They can shoot poison spikes from their bodies. The poison makes you feel like you're burning from inside. But you don't die quickly. It takes many days of terrible pain. More students called out their choices. There were creatures that could melt your mind with just a look. Others that could change shape to look like your best friend before eating you. Some that could control gravity and crush you flat. Each monster sounded worse than the last. The rock student with many arms chose something called a bone melter. It looks like liquid metal, but it's alive. It can slip through the smallest cracks. When it touches you, your skeleton turns to soup inside your body. A snake-like student picked the dream killers. They attack you when you sleep. They turn your dreams into nightmares so real that your body thinks they're happening. Most creatures die from fear before they wake up. Finally, Professor Zixtal turned to Sunho. Every alien student looked at him with curious eyes. They were wondering what pathetic creature the weak human would choose. And you, Mr. Park? Professor Zixtal asked. What will you present? Sunho thought for a moment. Around him, students leaned forward to hear. They expected him to pick something embarrassing. Maybe a small fish that only ate plants. Or some gentle creature that wouldn't hurt anyone. I'll present about sharks, Sunho said simply. Crystal 1 made confused musical notes. Sharks? What kind of name is that? They're fish from Earth's oceans, Sunho explained. The whole class was quiet for a second. Then Crystal 2 started her glass-breaking laugh again. Soon other students joined in. Even Barkface's leaves rustled with amusement. A fish? The cloud student whistled with surprise. Just a regular fish? Pretty much, Sunho said with a small smile. Professor Zixtal tried to hide her own amusement. Very well, Mr. Park. I'm sure your fish will be very educational for the class. The alien students whispered to each other as class ended. They could hardly wait to see what silly creature the soft human would show them. Day 3 came quickly. The classroom buzzed with excited alien voices as students settled into their seats. Everyone was looking forward to seeing what harmless creature the weak human would present. Some students had even brought snacks, expecting to be entertained by Sunho's silly choice. Crystal 1 flashed bright colors as she whispered to Crystal 2. I wonder if his fish has pretty colors, she sang softly. Maybe it makes beautiful sounds underwater. Barkface rustled his leaves with amusement. Probably eats tiny water plants all day. How boring. The cloud student spun lazily near the ceiling. At least it will be a nice break after hearing about all our terrifying monsters. Professor Zixtal called for quiet as Sunho walked to the front of the room. He carried a small device that projected holograms. The alien students smiled and prepared to laugh at whatever cute sea creature appeared. Today I'll talk about sharks, Sunho said in his calm voice. He pressed a button on his device. A hologram appeared in the air. It showed a large, gray creature swimming through blue water. The creature had a pointed nose and a long, curved tail. It moved smoothly through the water like a living arrow. Several students giggled. The creature looked simple and plain. No bright colors, no glowing parts, no obvious weapons. It's just a gray fish, Crystal 2 sang with disappointment. Where are its energy blasts? Its poison spines? Sunho smiled slightly. Sharks don't need energy blasts. They have something better. He changed the hologram. Now it showed the inside of a shark's head, with glowing lines spreading out from its nose. Sharks can sense electricity, Sunho explained. Every living thing makes tiny electrical signals when its heart beats or muscles move. Sharks can feel these signals from very far away. The giggling in the classroom became quieter. They can also smell blood in the water, Sunho continued. One small drop of blood in millions and millions of gallons of water. They will smell it and follow the scent right to you. Barkface stopped rustling his leaves. How far can they smell blood? Miles away, Sunho said simply. The hologram changed again. Now it showed a close view of a shark's mouth. Rows and rows of white triangular teeth filled the jaw. Each tooth looked razor-sharp and deadly. Those are big teeth, the cloud student whispered. A shark has about 300 teeth at any time, Sunho said. But behind each tooth are more teeth waiting. When one tooth breaks or falls out, another one moves forward to replace it. A single shark might use 30,000 teeth in its whole life. The classroom was completely quiet now. No one was giggling anymore. Sunho pressed another button. The hologram showed a shark skeleton, but it looked strange and flexible. Shark skeletons aren't made of bone like most creatures, Sunho explained. They're made of cartilage. This makes them lighter and faster in the water. It also makes them more flexible. A shark can turn around in a space smaller than its own body length. Crystal 1's flashing lights dimmed. How fast can they swim? The fastest sharks can swim over 40 miles per hour, Sunho said. And they can swim that fast for hours without getting tired. The rock student with many arms raised one hand nervously. What do they eat? Sunho's smile grew a little bigger. Everything. Fish, seals, whales, other sharks. Anything that moves in the water. He changed the hologram one more time. Now it showed a massive shark jumping completely out of the water. Its huge mouth was open, showing all those terrible teeth. In its jaws was a large seal. Several students moved back in their seats. The cloud student stopped spinning entirely. This is called breaching, Sunho said. Some sharks can launch themselves 15 feet out of the water to catch prey. They hit with the force of a small spaceship. Barkface's voice was very quiet. How big do these sharks get? The biggest ones are over 20 feet long and weigh as much as a small vehicle, Sunho replied. But size isn't what makes them dangerous. He let the hologram show several different types of sharks swimming together. Sharks have been almost exactly the same for 400 million years, Sunho continued. Do you know why? Because they became perfect hunters so long ago that they didn't need to change. Professor Zixtal's glowing form flickered with nervousness. 400 million years? That's longer than most civilizations have existed. Much longer, Sunho agreed. Sharks were already perfect killers before most planets in the galaxy had any life at all. They've survived every mass extinction, every climate change, every disaster that Earth has ever faced. The hologram now showed a feeding frenzy. Dozens of sharks thrashing in bloody water, tearing apart something large. When there's a lot of blood in the water, Sharks can enter what we call a feeding frenzy, Sunho explained. They become so focused on eating that they'll attack anything that moves. Even each other. Crystal too made a small, frightened sound like breaking glass. Sunho looked around the silent classroom. Every alien student was staring at the hologram with wide eyes or glowing fear responses. Any questions so far? He asked politely. No one answered. They were all too busy staring at the perfect predator swimming calmly through the projected water. The silence in the classroom stretched longer and longer. Every alien student stared at the hologram showing sharks swimming through dark water. Their perfect gray bodies moved like deadly shadows, and their black eyes seemed to look right at the watching students. Crystal 1 finally broke the silence. Her body flashed nervous yellow colors as she sang in a shaky voice, But how do humans survive on the same planet as these perfect killers? Sunho paused the hologram. A large shark hung frozen in the air, its mouth slightly open to show rows of sharp teeth. He looked around the room at all the frightened alien faces. That's an interesting question, Sunho said calmly. The truth is, sharks don't really bother humans very much anymore. Bark-faced Leaves rustled with confusion. They don't bother you? But you just said they're perfect predators that have stayed the same for hundreds of millions of years. That's right, Sunho agreed. But there's something I didn't mention yet. He pressed a button on his device. The hologram changed to show a human swimmer in the ocean. Below the swimmer, several sharks swam past without attacking. Sharks actually try to avoid humans now, Sunho said. The cloud student spun frantically. Avoid humans? Why would perfect predators avoid anything? Sunho's smile grew wider. Because they learned to be afraid of us. The room became so quiet that you could hear the soft humming of the hologram machine. Professor Zixtal floated closer, her glowing arms trembling slightly. Afraid? Professor Zixtal whispered. How could these creatures be afraid of humans? Sunho changed the hologram again. Now it showed a human boat on the ocean surface. Humans were pulling a huge shark out of the water with nets and ropes. The shark was clearly dead. Humans hunt sharks, Sunho explained simply. We've been hunting them for thousands of years. Crystal 2 made a sound like glass cracking. You hunt them? But they're the perfect predators. We're perfect predators, Sunho corrected. Until they met humans. The hologram showed numbers floating in the air. Big, scary numbers that made the alien students gasp. Every year humans kill about 100 million sharks, Sunho continued. Some species of sharks are now almost extinct because humans hunted so many of them. Barkface's entire trunk started shaking. 100 million? Every year? Every year, Sunho confirmed. We hunt them for their fins, their meat, their oil. Some humans hunt them just for fun. The rock student with many arms raised all his hands at once. But you said sharks can sense heartbeats from far away. They can smell one drop of blood. How do humans catch them? Sunho pressed another button. The hologram now showed human fishing boats with huge nets and long lines full of hooks. Humans are very good at making tools, Sunho said. We make nets bigger than this classroom. We make hooks stronger than shark teeth. We use boats faster than sharks can swim. He paused and looked directly at Crystal 1. Remember you asked how weak humans survive on a planet with perfect predators? The answer is simple. We don't just survive. We became the apex predator. The cloud student's purple mist turned almost black with fear. Apex predator? But you're so small and soft. Size doesn't matter when you have intelligence, Sunho replied. And tools. And teamwork. The hologram changed one more time. Now it showed something that made every alien student freeze with terror. It was a human in the water, swimming next to a great white shark. The human had no protection, no weapons, just a small breathing tank. Some humans swim with sharks for entertainment, Sunho said casually. We call it shark diving. People pay money to get in the water with these perfect killers. Professor Zixtal's voice was barely a whisper. For fun. For fun, Sunho confirmed. Because sharks have learned that attacking humans is a bad idea. They know we're dangerous. Bark-faced Leaves were rustling so hard they sounded like wind in a storm. What happens to sharks that attack humans? We hunt down that shark and kill it, Sunho said matter-of-factly. And usually several other sharks in the same area, just to be sure. The hologram showed a news report about a shark attack. Then it showed boats full of humans heading out to sea with weapons and nets. Sharks are very smart, Sunho continued. Smart enough to learn that humans are not prey. We're predators. Dangerous predators. So now, when a shark sees a human in the water, it usually swims away. Crystal One's body had stopped flashing entirely. She looked like a dim, gray crystal instead of the bright, colorful student she had been minutes before. Your species, she sang very quietly, turned the galaxy's perfect predators into scared animals? Not just sharks, Sunho said. Humans are the reason many of Earth's predators are extinct or endangered. Giant bears, huge cats with sword-like teeth, massive crocodiles. We outlived them all. He turned off the hologram. The classroom felt very empty without the image of sharks swimming through dark water. Any other questions? Sunho asked politely. No one answered. They were all too busy thinking about what it meant to be the species that scared the perfect killers. Sunho packed his hologram device slowly while the alien students sat in complete silence. The classroom felt different now. Heavy. Scared. No one was moving or talking. They just stared at the empty space where the shark hologram had been floating. Finally, Crystal One found her voice. Her body flashed very dim, frightened colors as she sang quietly, Sunho, are there other creatures like sharks on your world? Sunho looked up from putting his device away. Other creatures like sharks? You mean other predators? Yes, Crystal One whispered. Sunho thought for a moment. Well, sharks are just one type of predator from Earth's oceans. We also have box jellyfish. What do box jellyfish do? Asked the cloud student nervously. Their touch can kill you in about 15 minutes, Sunho said casually. The pain is so bad that most creatures die from shock before the poison finishes them. Barkface made a creaking sound like a tree falling down. What about on land? On land we have bears that can crush your skull with one bite, Sunho replied. Tigers that can jump 20 feet and have claws longer than your fingers. Poisonous spiders smaller than your thumb that can kill creatures 1,000 times bigger than themselves. The rock student's many arms were shaking. How many dangerous creatures live on Earth? Sunho smiled that same calm smile. Almost everything on Earth is dangerous in some way. Even our plants can kill you. We have trees that drop poisonous sap. Flowers that make deadly poison. Grass that can cut your skin like knives. Professor Zixtal floated closer, her glowing form flickering with fear. But surely humans stay away from these dangerous areas? Not really, Sunho said. Humans live everywhere on Earth. In hot deserts full of poisonous snakes. In frozen places where the cold can kill you in minutes. In jungles where everything wants to eat you or poison you. In mountains where the air is too thin to breathe. He paused and looked around the room. We don't just live in these places. We change them to be more comfortable for us. Crystal too made her glass-breaking sound, but this time it sounded scared instead of happy. You change dangerous places? We cut down the poisonous forests and build cities, Sunho explained. We drain the swamps full of deadly creatures and plant food crops. We dig tunnels through mountains and build bridges over rushing rivers. The cloud student was spinning very slowly like he was thinking hard. But what about all the predators? The bears and tigers and sharks. We put most of them in special parks now, Sunho said. Places where we can watch them safely. Some of them we keep as pets. Pets. Barkface croaked in shock. Small tigers, yes. We call them house cats. Also wolves which we turned into dogs. Even some bears, though that's less common. Professor Zixtal's voice was very quiet. You took wild predators and made them into pets? Over thousands of years, yes, Sunho replied. We changed them so they would be friendly to humans and help us hunt other predators. The hologram device made a small beeping sound as Sunho finished packing it. The sound made several students jump. I have a question, Crystal One sang nervously. How did humans become so good at hunting these perfect predators? Sunho sat back down at his desk. Humans aren't the strongest or fastest creatures on Earth, he said. But we can think ahead and work together. And we never give up. Never give up? The rock student asked. Humans used to hunt big animals by chasing them for days and days, Sunho explained. The animal would run fast but then get tired and have to rest. Humans would keep following, walking steadily. Eventually the animal would be so tired it couldn't run anymore. Then humans would kill it with spears. Bark-faced leaves rustled with horror. You chased them until they died from exhaustion? It's called persistence hunting, Sunho said. Humans can run longer than almost any other creature on Earth. We don't stop until we catch what we're hunting. The classroom was quiet again. Every alien student was thinking about what this meant. Humans weren't weak. They were patient, smart hunters who never gave up. This explains so much, Professor Zixtal whispered. The psychological tests for Human Academy students. The stress resistance requirements. The warnings about human emotional control. She floated to her desk and started making notes quickly. You're not from a garden world at all. Earth is a death world. One of the most dangerous planets in the galaxy. Probably, Sunho agreed. Crystal One's body flashed one last dim question. And humans? Humans are the most dangerous thing on this death world? Sunho stood up and walked toward the door. As he passed Crystal One's desk, he stopped and looked down at her with those calm, patient human eyes. We're the species that made sharks afraid to hunt in their own oceans, he said softly. What do you think? As Sunho left the classroom, the alien students sat in silence. They finally understood that the soft, weak human wasn't soft or weak at all. He was an apex predator from a world where everything was designed to kill, and somehow his species had won.